Hey guys, Kev here, and I want to do my first impressions on the Demko Knives AD20. And this is a sweet knife that I recently reacquired. Not in this configuration. This is the configuration I originally wanted, or one of them. Um, and I didn't get the first time, so I was kind of more willing to give it up, and now I've got it back, and I am so stoked. This thing has such a hard time staying out of my pocket, um, but yeah, I absolutely love it. So I am drinking a Coke, original taste, but with fake sugar. I love the Mexican Cokes. Ah, they're so good because they use the real sugar. This is still good, but what you want is that, excuse me, the Mexican style one in the glass bottle. It has a little bit of a white label on it. They use real cane sugar, I believe, instead of the fake sugar that you get in the American kind. Anyway, the Demko Knives 8020 is just such a cool offering. It came out in the summer, I believe, of 2020, and it just kind of was released to huge fanfare. Andrew Demko is an amazing knife designer. There's so many these days, but he's one of the elites, I would say. You know, he really he's invented multiple locks, at least 3 that I know of. No, 4 that I know of, which all function well, all are very cool. The first one that I know of was the Triad lock that he worked with Cold Steel, and they basically use on everything. And that knife is a backlock design, which basically is the strongest knife lock there is currently, the Triad lock. But to me, it's not very fun. Now, I haven't had many Cold Steels. I need to check some out, which reminds me, I need to get Kyle to send me a Cold Steel, because I know he has a couple. So I'm gonna mark that down. Hopefully, ask him after this video. But I've never really experienced them, but I've experienced backlocks, and they're just not fun. I'm a fidgety guy, you know. And you can't really fidget with a backlock. He also invented the ram lock, I believe, which I know nothing about, but I just know it's called the ram lock. And it's probably very strong, and it's probably pretty cool. Then he also invented the scorpion lock. Now that came out about 2019, I believe, in the AD15, which kind of was as big as this knife is, the AD20, because it has a back strap lock that kind of runs along the back here, and you can use it like an ambi lock, kind of like an axis lock, but you kind of pinch and then you pull this bar back, and you grab it from both sides, pull the bar back, and that disengages everything, and the blade will swing down, and it can be fidgety because you can flick it open with your thumb and then use the lock to, you know, fling it closed, or you can use the strap lock to kind of throw it up. So that one was more fidgety, and that one was received very well, but it was made in a custom from Demko Knives, and they did have an MG, which stands for a machine ground version. I'm not sure what the pricing was on the AD15s, but I think they were a bit more than these. And then Cold Steel actually made a production model of the AD15 that came out, again, 2019 sometime, and for, let's say, $200, you could really experience the Demko Scorpion Lock, which is really cool. That Cold Steel did that, and they've done that multiple times with Demko. The 8010, a bunch of other designs he's had his fingers on a lot of the Cold Steel designs, even if you don't know about it, which I think is really interesting. I've listened to a few podcasts or interviews with Andrew Demko, and he's a really cool guy. Yeah, so anyway, he then came out with the 8020 last year, 2020, and this has the shark lock, which he has now patented. And basically the way it works is there's this little tab right here, right? So it looks like a shark. And when you pull this tab, there's a spring in there, and that disengages the lock, basically, right? And then you can go ahead and open the blade, and then when the tang meets the lock, it slams down, right? So now the shark lock is in place. And then it's held in by this right here and the spring, obviously. There's stuff going on down there, but and I'm not an engineer, so I'm not explaining this very well, but it's, just showing you how it works. And then to disengage, you just have to pull this back. And that is the genius of this lock, is that it is extremely easy and extremely fidgety to play with, because you can just pull the shark lock back and it'll drop home, because this knife is on bearings. And then for deployment methods, you have so many. So to start with, you have the thumb stud, right? So there's the thumb stud. You can middle finger flick it with the thumb stud. You have an opening hole on this one. They do have models without the hole, so keep that in mind. You can use the hole to slow roll, which you can also do with the thumb stud. You can thumb flick with the hole, but it's kind of awkward. You basically just end up using a lot of wrist. And then, of course, with the hole, you have the Spidey flick, right? Which is really cool. And with some of those, you do have to give it a little bit of wrist to flick it. It's not that the detent's strong or anything. It's actually kind of weak because it's a spring, not a detent. But it's a heavy blade. Like, look at this thing. And this spring on the shark lock is strong, so you have to overcome that. And once you get past that, it's pretty, it's pretty simple or easy to open and close. Once you get past that, the spring tension goes to about here. See that? Once you're past that, there's like nothing to it. It just, you can basically use gravity to open it, but you have to get to it. Anyway, so that's the thumb stud in the hole, and then you have obviously the lock. So you can. This is probably my favorite way to play with this knife. It's just so much fun because you don't have to use a lot of wrist. You just kind of give it a little flick, and it's good. The hole for me, I don't know. I'm not as good at thumb flicking or middle finger flicking as some people. I tend to miss it sometimes, and what you don't want to do on this knife is fail. Because if you fail and don't open it all the way and it comes to here, that blade slams shut. And I've almost had my finger in that path multiple times. So you just need to be careful there. I've never actually cut myself, but, I'm sure it's happened to people. So it's really cool that it has so many opening methods. And it's just kind of an adjustment. You just get used to it, and then you're good to go. So aesthetically on this knife, I think it's really good looking. Now, I'm sure it's a divisive design that some people think it's really ugly. I just think it's cool. I know there's a small amount of blade for what looks like a huge handle. At least to me, it seems that way. And I think it's because there's so much going on in this area right here with the pivot. It's like an oversized pivot and everything. So, your blade is here to here. So this whole section basically is unused handle. I don't know how to explain that properly, but you end up having what looks like a short blade on a big handle, basically. Which doesn't bother me. I think it looks really cool. This here is an MG model. Again, that means machine ground. So the only difference between a full custom from Demko Knives and a machine ground one is that the blade is machine ground and it is flat ground. So you get a flat grind on the blade if it's an MG, and if it's a custom, it is a hand ground blade by Andrew Demko, or I believe his brother also does the grinding, but I'm not sure. Somebody can tell me about that. I think his name's John. But it's done in the shop by a Demko. You get a hand ground hollow grind. Now, this is a special circumstance. So the guy I bought this knife from bought it from somebody else, right? And when you have a knife like this that costs $425 retail and is very limited, they tend to get bought by multiple people, and you end up having a lot of owners, right? But because of the nature of the knife, it also means that it's probably not been used a lot. It doesn't get beat up because people don't want to use an expensive knife or damage an expensive knife. With that said, the guy who owned this before the guy who owned this tried to sharpen it, and he jacked up the blade, right? So this was an MG with a machine ground blade. And I think the blade shape's a little bit different. It's I don't know. I have to look at it in pictures, but it looks a little different. And basically, he screwed up. There were scratches all over this thing from sharpening. And the guy who I bought it from actually sent it off to Tom Crine. And Tom Crine is known for, one, he's a knife maker. Well-known knife maker. But he's known for doing extremely good regrinds. And he reground this blade to a hollow grind. And I think he changed the shape a little bit. To me, it looks kind of clip point Bowie-esque a little bit now. And I don't remember my first one being that way, but I could be wrong. Anyway, now it has this ridiculously well done hollow grind by Tom Crine. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see the grind lines, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And it is sharp, and it slices like a dream. It's thin behind the edge for such a big knife like this. I mean, it's just amazing. Now, the one I had before was a black G10 3V blade one with the hole and the MG, right? So it had the flat grind. That cut very well as well. Like, it wasn't like that one didn't cut well. So this is just even better being, you know, a hollow grind and being so thin. So that did add some cost to this knife. Normally these go $425 retail. And the guy got it off of, you know, he probably put at least $100 into the regrind, plus shipping back and forth and everything. So I paid $530 for this, which is a little more, obviously, than retail, but it's 100% worth it, and for a reason. So you can see Tom Crine's maker's mark there. He puts that on there to make sure people know this is not a custom from Demko. He doesn't want anybody to confuse his work with Demko's work, and I think that's a good touch. So that's kind of how I got the knife, what's going on with the knife aesthetically. It also has these lime green scales, which, as far as I can tell, is a Knife Joy exclusive. The box that I got says Knife Joy on it, I think. I'm not sure. I think it said LG Knife Joy or something like that. So I don't think you can get this color anywhere else, but I could be wrong. They do have a highlighter yellow one. Somebody I know on Instagram recently got one, and they look similar probably in video, but this is definitely like a lime green. Has a little bit of a darker color than like a neon green does, like the neon yellow. Which that one still looks cool. I do prefer this one though. And this was one of the colors that I originally wanted. I got my first one from Knife Joy, and I saw this in the listings, but when they dropped, you know, there was like 5 of them, and I just picked the one that I thought I could get quickly, and it was a black one with 3V, and I just bought it. And I kind of wish I would have gotten gray or red or something at the time, and I really wanted 20 CV. These come in 3V or 20 CV, and now there's all different ones. He's made a couple of sheep's foot blade, different blade shapes. He's done like crew wear, I think. He's done M390, I think. So there's other variants out there now, but at the time there was 2 options, and I wanted 20 CV because I don't really do outdoor stuff. Like, I'm not chopping down trees with this thing. it's really an EDC knife for me. So 20 CV makes more sense. And I lent mine out, the black one, I lent to Kyle, DTOM Knives and Gear, and he bought it from me. He basically offered me more than I could say no to, and I've told this story before, but it was before we were like good buddies, and you know, I didn't feel bad taking his money, so I took the offer. If it was now, I'd probably, you know, I would for sure charge him less than I paid. That's just kind of, if I'm selling a knife to a buddy, I'm always going to give him a deal. I feel weird not doing that, regardless of what I paid. So anyway, he bought it, and then I always wanted another one, and I was looking for a long time, and I finally found one on Facebook. A guy named Ruben, I believe, was very kind enough to hit me up and let me know he was selling this or thinking about it, and we worked out a deal. So I'm glad that we did. Ergonomically, I really like this knife. Like, it fits in my hand very well. I have a large to XL size hand. It's not huge, but you have this spot right here for your index finger, and then the rest of your fingers can go right down here in this swell before you get to this kind of hook at the end, which kind of reminds me of a Cold Steel, like a Vaquero or something. They all have that kind of like hook, I think. But my hand fits into that spot extremely well. And a lot of people worry when they see this in pictures that this lock is going to get disengaged while you're holding the knife, right? But it's almost impossible for that to happen, because while I'm gripping it like this, right, my thumb lands either right on top of the lock where, you know, I'm pushing down on it. I'm not pulling back on it. And then even then, if I pull it all the way back and somehow it fell down, there's no blade there. There's no edge, right? It's not going to hit me. And it'd be so weird for that to happen. You know? Like, there's just too many things that would have to happen. And then if you choke up, which is one of the best parts about this knife, is this choil right here. Now I have tons of room down here. And now my finger is way up on this jimping. And, you know, my hand it's not going anywhere near that lock, and it's certainly not going to pull it back, down and back. Like, the way the lock works is it goes down and back, down and back. So you would have to do something really weird, and even then your hand is locked in, like it's not going anywhere. So it's very comfortable ergonomically. You could slice with this thing for days, work with this thing for days, no issue. The clip, no hot spot at all. I do want to mention that you can get a reversible clip for this. You just have to order it from Demko Knives. It was $10, and then you just swap it out, because the clip won't reverse. You have to get a different clip made for lefty carry, but they made them, which is very nice of them. It is an ambidextrous lock, so it makes sense that they would do that, but you'd be surprised at the companies and people who don't do that when it seems like a very ambi knife, you know. So ergos are good. Carry. The carry on this thing is interesting. It seems really big and bulky and heavy, right? But it's really not that heavy. It's like, I don't know, 5.5, 6 ounces. But it's a bigger piece, so it doesn't feel like 6 ounces. It's the G10 one, so it's pretty lightweight. To me, this is pretty lightweight, honestly. And in pocket, it rides like a dream. Honestly, I still reach past it to get things out of my pocket, like my chapstick. And yeah, I feel it there. And yeah, I go, oh, I got the AD20 in there today, you know. But it's not like ridiculous. It's not like you can't carry it, or it takes up a whole pocket or something. And if you're a knife guy, which if you own this knife, you're probably a knife guy, you probably have a knife pocket. So I don't really think that's a complaint or anything. You know, I don't see that argument, but I hear it. So, yeah, I just think this is a sweet knife. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm so glad to have one back in the collection. Clearly, I can ramble and rant about it. So that tells you something right there. I really like it. When I go into these rants and raves, it's usually because I like a knife or I really don't like a knife, right? So you can kind of tell from that, but I love this thing, and the only drawbacks to me right now are sometimes I fail it because I'm too weak, like I don't know, sometimes I get in these like moods or something where I'm sitting there fidgeting and I just don't use a lot of effort, or maybe it's like when you're on the couch or something, you have less, I don't know, maybe you have less power behind your flicks and stuff as opposed to sitting up or like standing. I don't know. And doing it in front of a camera is obviously harder, but you can see I don't have any trouble. I can, without wrist, I can do that. The middle finger flick's harder for me because this finger always gets in the way. You see how I don't get it all the way? But if I tuck this finger down, which is awkward as all get out, then it works. So it's just my finger getting stuck. So it's not the knife. I haven't learned how to like really middle finger flick some knives. It's weird. But yeah, I mostly end up just going like this anyway, and then I just flick it back and forth, and then my wife yells at me, and then I laugh, and then I pull out something else and start flicking that. So Demko knives, 80-20, first impressions. I will get a full review of this out in a couple weeks probably because, I went in pretty good depth here, and I don't want to just put another video out in 3 days and call it a review. I want to really carry it for a long period of time because I really didn't get to the first time around. I only had it for like 3 or 4 days, and then I sent it off for Kyle to review it, and obviously it never came back. So, this time I'm going to carry it for a while. This one's not going anywhere. The only way this knife is going anywhere is if somehow I can upgrade it to maybe a titanium MG, but even then, I don't think I want one of those because of the weight on that. And I like this as more lightweight in the G10, and I honestly love this lime green. Like, it gives my collection some color. And people don't really get scared when you whip out a lime green knife, But yeah, that is it, guys. I will shut up now. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will catch you later.